All right, here we are back with another episode of the Two Planker Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Schaefer, and today on the show we have David Lesh. I love hearing about your life. I think it's definitely very unique. Are you involved in you're traveling around all summer. Are you involved in the day-to-day operations of your business? Or
No.
are you just the owner kind of from
Yeah,
afar?
no, I mean, I've tried to remove myself from the day-to-day stuff as much as possible. I ran the company by myself for the first year. But since then, I've had employees who deal with like social media, customer service, order fulfillment. I still deal with, design. I oversee the people who, manage our website. I kind of do deal with that. I obviously, do like the hiring. I deal with, general marketing decisions and sales that we're going to do, putting together, campaigns. I deal with the factories, all the, back and forth at the factories and the design process, the shipping of the stuff, customs, just kind of general timing, just overseeing stuff. But I mostly have removed myself from the day-to-day stuff, so I can pretty much go anywhere, anytime, which is amazing.
Yeah. And so I did a whole stretch of small business episodes, so we could definitely get into like more of the business stuff. But I mean, staying with modern time, how long have you been in like this current role where you're kind of managing from a distance? How many years?
I mean, I've been able to step away from my business from the beginning. Um, Even, from I helped ship the first batch of stuff in 2009. But then even halfway through that winter, I had hired a local order fulfillment place to do the order fulfillment because I was still skiing professionally and traveling all over the world, and I couldn't be around to do the day-to-day stuff, nor did I want to. So I mean, I would say basically the entirety of the last 13 years, I've had myself in a position to just kind of remove myself from the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah. And I mean so this is like the most common question that I think people have about you because I already know the answer. Like a lot of people think you come from money, and I already know that's not true because I've done a lot of research on you. But is Vertica your full like your primary source of income now, or are you mostly living off of like
Vertica,
investments?
yeah. I mean, before I started Vertica, I think the most that I'd ever made in a year was between like 12 and 15 grand. Um, I was, generally homeless during the summer, living out of my car, visiting friends and family, traveling around, hopping freight trains. I would, work. Then in the fall, I'd be serving or working as a, car mechanic or security guard or at a ski shop. And then when I started skiing professionally, then I really tried to just mostly, ski, which was not any more money than I'd been making, but it was allowing me to travel around the world on somebody else's dime, which was great. But really, I'd never made more than about 12 or 15 grand in a year until I started Vertica. So my situation changed very quickly as Vertica, immediately kind of took off. To answer your question, Vertica has since then been my main source of income and still is, but I now have other supplemental streams of income that have been, really, really helpful in kind of building my financial success to where it is.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that the reason there's a lot of like doubters or people saying that it's got to be your parents' money is just because it's hard to imagine a ski clothing company taking off so much that could fully support kind of like the lifestyle that at least you're sharing with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a safe assumption. Most people who are in the ski industry do come for money. That's what allowed them to ski every day and to get good and to get sponsored. And that's, I think, a very safe assumption. In my case, it happens to not be true, but I don't care if that's what people think. It doesn't really bother me. That's probably what I would assume if I didn't know better about somebody. That would be my first assumption. So it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, I mean, so do you want to tell people about your early childhood? I mean, you were born in the U.S., but I mean, after that, it gets pretty interesting.
Yeah, my parents are, hippie artists, musicians, and they had a $20,000 grant from an Indian musical association, but based in America. So they gave my mom 20 grand to go to India, and that $20,000 supported our family of three, which became a family of four. And my sister was born in India for a total of 5 years. So our total family budget in India was $4,000 a year, which in India, you can make, especially, in the 80s, you can make go a long way. We didn't have a car, we didn't have our own house. We lived in a flat, and it was pretty sparse, living, but we did fine. It was decently comfortable. I was in India until I was 6. Grew up there speaking Hindi and Marathi. English was like my third language. Had a bunch of Indian friends. I was the only white kid in a town of like 3 million people. And went to school there and learned, how to read and write and cursive. And then we really only came back to America in '91 because of the Gulf War. Saddam Hussein, and Bush were going at it. And Bush Senior, was threatening to bomb Islamic holy places. And had he had done that, all of the Muslims around us would have come to our house and killed us. So once we realized that really was what would have happened and could happen if Bush had bombed, a temple or something, we were out of there within like 6 days. My dad packed up all his art. My sister was, I think, 7 days old at the time, or 5 days old. Wrapped her in a blanket. She didn't even have clothing. Got onto the next flight, and we were back to America. So we didn't have any money, and we were living at my grandma's house for a while in Madison, Wisconsin. That's kind of why we ended up there, is because we didn't really have anywhere to stay, and that was kind of the one place we could stay. So we lived with my grandma for a while. My parents got jobs teaching in the schools in Madison. And eventually we saved up and we got our own apartment. We had the 4 of us living in a 2-bedroom apartment in kind of a shitty area of Madison. And then after maybe a year or 2, we bought a very small house in the far corner of Sherwood Hills, which gave me access to a pretty good school network, a good, school situation. But I was definitely the poorest, kid at school. All the other kids were like doctors and lawyers kids, and I was like the broke, hippie artist kid that lived in like the weird fucking house down, in the corner of the neighborhood. But it was an interesting childhood. I didn't really fit in. I was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white boy who had just come from India. I was speaking English with a British Hindi accent. The kids didn't really know what to make of me. I didn't fit in. So I had a hard time, making friends, and also keep in mind that I had already been going to school for a couple of years. So, we were like playing with blocks and shit in kindergarten, and I was like reading, writing, cursive, math, the whole deal. So I was instantly bored with school, and I was, goofing off and fucking around. And I, was just not, school was never my jam.
Yeah. When you were in India, did you realize like how fucked up the situation was when you guys had to leave like that, or were you just so young that you didn't
No,
really
I
know?
mean, I was, 5, 6 years old. India was all I knew. India for me was home. I was not excited to go to America. I had no idea really what America was. It just was this faraway place that was unfamiliar to me. That my friends weren't there. I had all kinds of great friends in India, and so I was not excited to leave India. And of course, now I'm very glad that I didn't like grow up in India for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So when you get to America, you're not fitting in for like 2 completely different reasons. First of all, like you're the new kid that doesn't really speak English, but you're also kind of
I
smarter than the
spoke
rest of the
English.
kids.
I
Oh,
spoke
okay,
English.
sorry. Yeah.
I spoke it with a strange accent.
Uh-huh.
I think I lost the accent within probably 6 or 9 months. But in the beginning, I had a British Hindi accent.
Yeah.
I didn't fit in for sure.
Yeah. From what I've heard from what you've said in other interviews, like it didn't really get much better in terms of like your behavior and anything after that, right? Like in terms of your
Yeah,
childhood.
I mean, I think that I like kind of held it together for the most part through elementary school. In middle school, I just like, I wasn't like the cool kid. Like all the other kids got to go shopping at J.C. Penney and like had the new cool Nike shoes, and I had to go shopping at Goodwill and buy clothing that didn't fit me. And I just like wasn't I just like was not the cool kid. And I just, I was kind of awkward, and I was bad at talking to girls, and I don't know, it just I didn't I was not where I wanted to be. All the other kids, they got to go on vacation to Aspen with their family and go skiing and do cool stuff. And like my parents, we didn't get to eat out. Like we didn't have a car for a while. Like we like our vacation was like going canoeing on the Wisconsin River, which is like all we ever did for any activity, birthdays, holidays, whatever, is like canoeing and camping on the Wisconsin River, which was great. But like, I wanted to like go places and do things. And so basically literally from the time I came back from India when I was 6 until I started skiing professionally, I did not travel anywhere outside of America. I went to like Mexico and Canada. I drove there myself when I was 16, but like, I was not traveling. I didn't have a passport. You could go to Canada and Mexico at the time with the driver's license. So, but basically between age 6 and probably 21, I did not travel. So as soon as I had the means to start traveling, I started doing a lot of it. I
Yeah.
kind of got off track, but basically, like I held it together through elementary school, and then in middle school, I wanted to fit in. I wanted to like be able to, have friends and stuff. And I started smoking weed, and that was really like the first kind of naughty, bad thing that I was doing. I started smoking weed in, I don't know, I think 6th or 7th grade, and that allowed me to kind of like chill out a little bit and make friends with people who are also into smoking weed. And we'd go skiing at Tyrol and go sneak off into the woods and get baked out of our fucking minds, and then go to the cafeteria and steal food and go, roll down the hill and just be high little kids. So I think that kind of set me off down this path. Originally, I wanted to like get good grades and graduate high school, and go to college and become a business, consultant and get a job at a business consulting firm, and like my uncle did, and really like kind of follow that professional path. And once I learned in elementary or in middle school that your middle school grades didn't matter, they don't count towards college, because my friend had an older brother who had just kind of gotten into high school, and he told us, yeah, they don't even look at your middle school grades. And I was like, this is like a revelation to me. So I was like, oh, great. Like, I'm going to fuck around during middle school, and then like I'll get it together in high school. Well, I had a lot of fun fucking around, and I made friends, and I was like, kind of living a better life. And so when I got to high school, that sort of continued. I also did a bomb threat in 8th grade, and I got expelled. So I went to high school a quarter late. So that already set me off. I was known as like the bomb threat boy in high school. So that already set me off on this path in high school of like being a hooligan. So that sort of just, stuck with me through high school.
Yeah. I mean, did you feel like it was hard to shake that, or did you not even care about trying to shake that image?
Yeah, I don't think I have shaken that, right? Like I still, to this day, get into trouble, and I'm in the news for, posting whatever to my Instagram and pushing people's buttons and fucking around. So I don't think I've ever shaken it, but I definitely, I had a lot of friends, some of which are dead or in jail now, who, were kind of went down that path of crime. We were stealing cars and doing pretty complicated robberies and breaking into places and doing heists, and it was great, it was fun, but I knew that it was not the path to go down in your adulthood. When you're a kid, you go to juvie for a couple weeks and you get an ankle bracelet and they let you out, and no big deal, you go back to high school. But when you're an adult, there's more serious consequences, and so I really told myself that I'd clean up when I was an adult, and I did for the most part, but old habits die hard, and so I think that there is still kind of like that troublemaker side of me that probably is to blame for a lot of the things that I do, and the buttons that I push.
Yeah, we'll get to current events later, but I mean, you definitely haven't continued on the track of stealing cars and
No,
committing
at some
robberies.
point,
Yeah.
yeah, at some point in high school, like I was just, a lot of bad things were happening to me. And I, at some point in high school, started kind of believing in karma. And I decided that I still wanted to keep kind of being a hooligan, but I wanted to do it in a way that wasn't going to affect individuals negatively. So before that, we were just like fucking people shit up left and right. And I think a lot of that karma, really, really came back to haunt me. I had a lot of, really bad stuff going on. But at some point, we decided we were only going to like rob large corporate organizations. So, we were robbing like Circuit City and Best Buy and these like big kind of corporate companies that, you know, we didn't really care about. So at some point I started sort of believing, you know, what goes around comes around, and I started cleaning up my, you know, my hooligan ways a little bit.
Yeah. And so I just got to ask, since it kind of all originated with talking about your parents, like what were your parents, kind of peace loving hippies thinking watching their son get into all this trouble?
They weren't stoked. I mean, they were struggling to control me. My dad didn't have any custody over my sister and I starting in like, I think sixth or seventh grade. And I didn't talk to my dad for many years after that, long after high school. So it was just my mom really who was the one who was trying to parent me. And she was struggling to control a very defiant, headstrong, independent, little 12-year-old, 11-year-old. She had a hard time with it for sure. You know, she I think made a lot of mistakes in her parenting technique, and she went the path of trying to police me and be my boss rather than sort of like be there for me and help guide me through my adolescence. Which I think she understands now that she kind of made some missteps there. But you know, it all worked out. I didn't kill myself. Regardless of how many cars I crashed and flipped and stole, and you know the crazy shit that I did, I managed to stay together in one piece, and you know I didn't end up in jail for the rest of my life. So I think looking back on it, she would have done some things differently, but at the end of the day, it all turned out all right.
Yeah, totally. So how did you end up getting into the world of skiing and deciding I'm gonna pursue that as a career?
Basically, I played hockey and soccer starting in like elementary school. I played, I think, a total of 21 seasons of soccer and 7 years of hockey. And I went to state for both of them. I was on private, select, club teams, and I was decent. I wasn't like the greatest, but I was pretty good. I was definitely good enough to go play in high school, varsity high school. Um, but what I realized, so in the middle school we had these ski trips where you'd pay like some cheap amount of money, I don't know, 100, $200 for the whole season. And on Friday nights, they'd bus you to the local hill that was open in the nighttime. And they were open till, I don't know, midnight or something. And you'd go ski all night long under the lights. And so they'd provide rentals and they'd provide lift tickets. And so that was how I originally, kind of started skiing. And I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It was something that I could do with my friends that I didn't have a set schedule for. I didn't have to practice. I didn't have to show up at 6 in the morning and do drills. I could just, kind of do what I wanted to do. There was a lot of freedom in it. So I was immediately drawn to skiing, and I skied a lot through middle school, only on these ski trips, these 10 a year ski trips. So in high school, freshman year, I did a bomb threat. So in eighth grade, and I got expelled. So no matter what, I wasn't going to be playing high school sports, the first quarter or semester because I was expelled. I was not at school. So that combined with the fact that I knew that if you wanted to play high school sports, you had to go to class. And if you didn't go to class, they wouldn't let you play. And I had no intention of going to class. I wanted to skip school, work on cars, and smoke weed with my friends and go skiing. And so I made a decision that I would rather not try out for varsity sports. And I was just gonna ski because that was like something I could do. So in the summertime, I'd mountain bike. I was into like urban mountain biking and kind of like freestyle mountain biking, which was a great thing for us to do all summer. And in the winter, I'd ski, which was great because I don't have to wake up at 5 in the morning and practice. I could just skip school. I'd go bum rides to Tyrol with my older upperclassmen friends, it worked out perfectly. I could skip school and do what I wanted to do. And so the freshman year was the first year that I had my own skis and my own gear and a season pass to Tyrol.
Could you give us a little bit of the eighth grade bomb threat story? I feel like I skipped right over that, and it's got a.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I was already such a hooligan at that point. In eighth grade, there was this neighboring school, Cherokee, and they had a bomb threat every single day. The kids there were just like, I don't know, it's a little closer to ghetto, I guess, and they just were more hooligan-y. Cherokee had a bomb threat almost every single day that spring and the end of that year. And every day they'd take all the kids, they'd march them down to the local church for 2 hours while the fire department looked for bombs in the building. They had to do it, I'm sure, for liability reasons. And so the kids would get to skip like half a day of school every day. And I was like, what the fuck? How come like we never get to do this? Like nobody here has the balls to do a bomb threat. So I did a bomb threat with my buddy. He ended up telling on me. And so, I got expelled for doing a bomb threat. Now that was actually how I learned to play golf was I was, out of school that whole summer and the quarter before and the quarter after. So I was out of school for many months. And so I'd sneak onto the second hole of the Odana golf course every day. And that's kind of how I learned to play golf.
There you go. Yeah, I feel like I was considering just letting it slide and keeping with the timeline, but that's I wanted to dive into that. So
Yeah, I mean, it obviously was a stupid thing to do, but it was successful. I was, hoping to miss some school, and I ended up missing quite a bit of school.
yeah. So you got to go to school if you want to play sports. Skiing, you don't have to go to school. So you get out of high school, and from what I understand, you went to Portland of all places. What was the decision making? Like, what was your kind of, I mean, before you could explain your move, like, what was your view of skiing at the time? Were you tuned into like all the ski movies, ski magazines? Like, what was the extent of your knowledge of skiing?
So I was obsessed with skiing. Every inch of my room in my basement at my mom's house was covered with magazines from Freeze. I don't know if Free Skier was a magazine yet, but at least Freeze magazine. This was like my freshman year was 1999. And I really started getting into like the freestyle ski thing a couple years before that. So probably like 96, 97, before there were twin tips. The 1080 was the first twin tip, and that was like, I think, 99. And so I was very much tuned into the ski world, but there wasn't, it wasn't like today. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't these websites. There wasn't videos online. There wasn't, movies. I mean, there was like, the Warren Miller movies or something, which I didn't really have any, and I didn't really care about. It wasn't really core freestyle skiing. I grew up skiing at Tyrol, where they had one of the first half pipes, hand dug half pipes in the world. But skiers weren't allowed in it. It was only for snowboarders. And we'd go in there anyway, and we'd get kicked out for the day. And you'd come back the next day and sneak into the pipe again. And they'd kick you out. And, that was, there weren't, I remember the first rail that was at Tyrol, it was like probably 97 or something. They just had a little handrail that had broken off one of the handrails, at the cafeteria, and they just stuck it in the snow, and people were like grinding this 4-foot long rail. So I was definitely there in the beginning of the sport when there wasn't much media. And as soon as there was some media, oh, you better believe I was subscribed to every magazine. I was, buying the VHSs and playing them over and over until the VHS tape literally wore out and broke, and the VHS tape wouldn't play anymore. So I was very tuned into the world of freestyle skiing, and we travel to Upper Peninsula of Michigan and mainland Michigan and Minnesota for comps. We'd carpool, and I was competing every chance that I could, and totally self-taught, just kind of learning. We didn't have trampolines or water ramps or foam pits or video review. No, you couldn't even see what you looked like. We had a Hi8 camera that you could, videotape yourself on and play it back on a VHS player, but there wasn't like an iPhone. You could just like see what you looked like. So the learning curve was definitely steeper, and we didn't have examples of, the pro skiers at the time, JFQ Son and, Shane Zox and the whole like Canadian freestyle team. They were just kind of figuring out the sport for the first time. So we were, we didn't have people doing dubs and triples to look up to kind of, copy. We were all just kind of figuring it out, ourselves at the same time. So to answer your question, I was totally tuned into the world of skiing. And as soon as high school ended, I just knew that I wanted to go somewhere where I could ski. I wanted to live in a bigger city. And I also wanted to be close to skiing. So my options, you figure, are like Seattle, maybe Reno, maybe San Fran or Sacramento, but like that's a bitch. There's just not that many options that have cities with skiing nearby. So Portland was kind of a good fit for that. So I was living on the east side of Portland in Gresham, and I was skiing Mount Hood 120 days a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, did you know anyone out in Portland, or did you just send it out there on your own?
I had driven through Portland for like half an hour one time in my car the summer before. I'd never spent a night there even, but I liked the look of the town. I remember when I drove through and I drove over the Willamette River, in the Columbia, I was like, oh, this looks like a cool place. And so that was about all I needed to move there. I knew two guys. I had two sort of friends who were there at the time that, at least I knew somebody there. But no, I didn't have like a scene set up in Portland. I also wanted to get about as far away from Wisconsin as I could. So that worked for that.
Yeah. And I mean, so how did it go once you were finally out there and had like unfettered access to skiing pretty much?
It was great. I took the next year off. I did want to try to fight my way through college, but I needed to get residency in Oregon to get in-state tuition. So I took a year off, and I was working some jobs out there. And I started, skiing. I just had kind of part-time random jobs that would still allow me to ski a lot. I was skiing probably at least 5 days a week. I think I put 120,000 miles on my car each year for the 2 years that I was out in Oregon. I was, skiing every day, and I was driving weed back to Wisconsin, once a month. So I was doing a lot of driving. But it was great. We didn't have the greatest of winters. It was the two winters between like '03 and '05. And they were pretty shitty winters out in the Northwest. So I kind of left, and I'd go to Tahoe, and I'd go to Colorado and travel around and see friends and ski other places. And after 2 years of shitty Oregon winters and it not being the scene for me, that was when I made the move to Colorado.
Hmm. Yeah. And so, like, when did you first start seeing professional success? I mean, professional success. You said you didn't make more than 15 grand a year, but like, when did the ski industry side of things pick up for you? And they're saying, okay, like, hey, come out on this video shoot. Hey, come out on this photo shoot.
When I moved to Colorado, things started to pick up for me. I got my first sponsor out in Oregon, and then I won a few like little kind of local comps out there. And then I moved to Colorado, and I got my first kind of real sponsors, and eventually started getting paid by them. It started off slow. This was like a small travel budget and a little bit of money here and there, and it sort of kind of built and grew as I got better and I got more exposure. I started shooting with some local movie companies in Colorado, and then that kind of segued into shooting with Rage and Level One, and going on trips and shooting with some photographers in Europe, and spending some winters in New Zealand, and it just kind of grew from there.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and so you obviously have this entrepreneurial mindset now, and I know that like a lot of entrepreneurs are okay with uncertainty. So at that time, were you thinking to yourself like, shit, the ski thing better work out or I'm screwed, or were you completely okay, like just making it work, living super cheap, being
I
okay with
never
it?
I never had any delusions of skiing being a real career. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough to be in the X Games, or the Olympics weren't a thing then. But I wasn't at the top level of the sport. I was hardworking, and I was a good backcountry skier, and I could throw some tricks in the backcountry, and I was like a decent well-rounded skier. But I was also a good handrail skier. That was kind of my forte. Is I could grind any urban handrail. But I knew that I wasn't good enough to be making real money doing it. So for me, I was just doing it because I loved skiing, and it was a way for me to kind of get paid to do what I love to do, and I also got to travel on somebody else's dime, which was great. But I had no delusions of it leading to any kind of an actual career. My plan in life was to just sort of eke my way through school. I was going to a semester of college every year or two. I'd take a couple community college classes and get some more credits out of the way. And my plan was just to eventually graduate college, and then kind of pursue some kind of a business career, some kind of consulting firm or something.
Hmm. Yeah, so you were just like, all right, I'm just going to do the straight and narrow once I'm back in college and finishing.
Yeah, I like somehow envisioned this like professional 9 to 5 life for myself, um, just because that's all that I knew. I didn't. This is before social media, and this is before fucking influencers and TikTokers and YouTubers, and this is like you got a job. Like my ski bumming was the most like non-traditional lifestyle and job that I could even fathom up. And now you got kids who are like, yeah, I'm gonna be like a TikToker for a living. Like like what the fuck? That was not a thing. I just figured that at some point I'd have to like get a job.
Uh-huh.
So that was my only vision for my life.
Yeah. And when did that kind of illusion of you living a normal 9 to 5 life kind of disappear?
I think, through my years of skiing professionally, it taught me that there's a way to structure your life that is non-traditional, that you don't have a boss, where you can work for multiple companies and have different contracts and, provide value to different, companies and people and make your own money, on the side here and there. And there's just, I think through the process of skiing professionally and, I was selling some photos. I was into photography. I was designing some websites. I was, doing some marketing and some just random stuff on the side. So I just kind of realized that there's a way to structure your life where you don't maybe have to work for the man or have a job. But I wasn't making all that much money, doing that stuff. So I figured at some point, if I really wanted to make money, I'd have to just like fucking bite the bullet and get a real job. So, and I've always wanted to, have money and do things with, with money. I wanted to, to travel and be able to do cool stuff. So I just figured at some point I would want money bad enough to where I would have to do the 9 to 5 thing.
Hmm.
Uh, and so when I started the company, that was really the first moment where I was like, oh, holy fuck, like this could be a thing, like I could, this is maybe a new path in life, and it was.
Hmm. So once you figured out you could string it together as a freelancer, kind of before freelancing and making it work on your own was super well known and super widespread. What was the decision to go forward and make a clothing company and have that be your venture of choice?
That was my only opportunity. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any credit. I didn't have credit cards. I didn't have investors. I didn't have rich parents. I didn't have a trust fund. I had no other opportunity to start a company. And I was just sick of, the outerwear sponsors that I had at the time. They weren't letting me get involved. They weren't letting me design the stuff that I wanted to wear. And I was really thirsty for business. I really, just wanted to sink my teeth into something. And so that spring of 2009, my girlfriend at the time was like, well, why don't you just do it yourself? Why don't you just start your own company? And it almost took like somebody else saying it for it to maybe be like a possibility. And so I just started, 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day, just sending emails and making calls and, just doing research. And I didn't know shit about clothing. I mean, I wear the same thing every single day. I don't love shopping. I don't buy clothing. I don't really care what I wear. And so I just had to teach myself about fabrics and construction. And I knew what I knew about ski clothing because I've been skiing for, decades, and I knew what features I wanted and I knew how I wanted it to fit. I knew about ski clothing. But and in clothing in general, I didn't care about or have, and I still don't. But it was really just my only opportunity to start anything myself. And so I figured I could kind of leverage my connections and reputation in the ski industry to launch a clothing brand and then use the money from the pre-orders to pay for the production, which is what I ultimately ended up doing. And it worked out. And the stuff was in high enough demand at the time, and there was no other, there was Saga barely by a year or two before me making the stuff. But besides that, there weren't really any other companies making tall, bright, technical ski clothing with like a bunch of features. So kids were willing to pre-order it and give me $500 in the summertime and get the gear in December or January or whatever it was. So that was my only ability to start a company with no money.
And so, what year are we talking for that?
My first idea of starting the brand would have been like May of 2009. I was 23 at the time, and then I turned 24 that summer. And then I was homeless that whole summer. I was living in my girlfriend's parents' basement in Oregon. And I was going to try to ski hood that summer, but I couldn't afford lift tickets or a pass. My car was broken down. I couldn't fix it. So we were borrowing her parents' like 85 Volvo. And we were just like living in her parents' house. They were feeding us. And I was totally broke. I ended up threatening some of my sponsors from the year before they owed me collectively about $2,000. And so I threatened to sue them if they didn't pay me the $2,000, and they coughed up the money, and that $2,000 was what I used to start Virtika.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I like a lot of the small business episodes I've been doing. It's a lot of people that figure it out on their own, watch YouTube videos, maybe kind of look at what other companies are doing. Like, what were your resources at the time for actually figuring out like how the hell to manufacture clothes and
My
get it out
only
to the
resource,
masses?
my only resource was the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anyone who had started a successful company. I didn't have any connections. My only connections were in the ski industry, people who ran the websites and magazines, and skiers, pro skiers, and photographers. Those were my only connections. So they're helpful in launching the business, but they weren't helpful in knowing how to create the business. And so I just did research on the internet. I put myself on China time. I was going to bed every day about 6 a.m. I'd just go back and forth with China all night long on Skype and email, and just I'd hire translators if I had to help me translate. And ultimately, I realized I just needed to only look at factories who had a decent English speaker on staff. And I just designed the clothing myself, and I made the website, and I came up with the size charts, and I took the photos, and I just figured out there was no ability for me to hire anybody. I didn't have any money to hire anybody to do anything. So the only option was for me to figure it out. And I didn't know shit about building a website. I didn't know anything about product photography. I didn't know anything about, I knew something about marketing just from my years of skiing for my sponsors. So I was kind of helping market their companies. But social media was hardly a thing. Facebook had just kind of, started up, and I was not on Facebook yet. I think I had MySpace at the time. That was my only social media. So it was definitely a different world. I mean, there was enough on the internet where I could figure stuff out. There definitely wasn't as much information on the internet as there is now, and as many tutorials and courses and that kind of stuff. But there was enough for me to figure it out.
From the decision to start this venture up until whenever, when it became, okay, I'm going to pursue this as my main gig, how long was that? Like, from decision to actually act to, this is somewhat successful.
The timeline was, first concept of starting Virtika was May of 2009. Went to Oregon within a couple weeks of that. I was in Oregon that whole summer. It took me about 3.5 months to start the company. That included everything through samples, prototyping, website launch, everything. I moved back to Boulder, Colorado that fall, and I was actually in school full time that fall at CU. I was taking, I think, 14 credits, 15 credits. And so I launched the company in, I think, like August-ish. So sometime maybe in August, in Boulder, when I was back in Boulder. I was living in a one-bedroom apartment with my girlfriend on the hill. I was working as a server at a breakfast and lunch place, and I was going to school. And so from conception to launch was, I think, around maybe 3.5, maybe 4 months. And within 2 days, I made more money in the first 2 days of launching Virtika than I'd made in the previous year of my life. And so, to answer your question, it was immediate. I thought it was going to take years to kind of gain momentum. I thought I was going to, continue kind of down my path of skiing professionally, and maybe, I'd wear the gear and I'd have some of my pro skier friends wear the gear, and then after a couple of years, it would sort of gain some momentum and get some traction, and then kids would start wanting it, and it would take a while. But it was like overnight. I had my friends at the different websites and magazines post press releases. Pro skier David Lesh starts outerwear brand, and the sales just came in. I mean, it was literally instant. So I actually did finish that semester of school. I obviously never went back, but I did finish that semester of school because I thought, the company's not going to work out. Something's going to go wrong with it. It's going to collapse. This is not going to be enough to support me. But very, very quickly, I realized, okay, this is like a thing. And this is definitely what I should be kind of putting my time and energy into. And so almost immediately, I started focusing more on my company and less on my skiing career. So I still did get paid to ski for, some years after that, but that was not my focus anymore. I was not concerned with squeezing, money out of my sponsors that didn't have any. I was better off spending that time and energy working on my own company and growing my own company. And so that's what I did.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, so we opened up this whole thing with talking about what you've been doing this summer and basically what you've been doing for the past, a decade. Um, when you look back on that decision to start the company, like, was there ever any moment where you were planning on like, okay, like after you committed that you said, maybe this isn't for me? Like, did you have any second thoughts once you got on that train, or was that over? Because obviously it changed your life.
Absolutely not. I didn't have any delusions of it succeeding. I didn't tell anyone I was starting a company. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell my family. My dad, I think, knew. I had asked my mom and dad for $500 to help me start the company, and they both told me no. So they knew at least that I was going to try to start a company. But it's like I was 23 at the time. Every fucking moron college kids start some quote unquote clothing company. They go buy t-shirt blanks and hat blanks and they get them embroidered or screen printed down the street. And like, they've got a quote unquote clothing brand, So I just didn't want to be one of these kids who pretends that they've got a company. I had a buddy who I was friends with in high school who pretended to start a clothing company. And he was just selling weed, and he was just basically using it, the weed money to create this clothing company. And no one ever bought a single fucking thing. It was just a total farce. And it was just kind of a joke, like between our group of friends, he was like pretending to have this clothing company. And it was just like such a joke. It wasn't a thing. And I just didn't want to be that. I wanted, like, if it succeeded, great, but I didn't want to be a public failure. So I didn't tell anyone. So as soon as it did actually succeed and it became a thing, yeah, there were, after some years after that, there was a couple hard years. There was mistakes that I made, and the company was not doing well at one point, and I was, really financially against the ropes. So there were times there where I considered maybe it would go under, but I was certainly committed to doing everything that I could to make sure that it succeeded. So I at no point was I ever like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. I mean, that was my only thing. There was nothing. I didn't have anything to fall back on. I didn't. If Virtika didn't work out, like, I was going to have to go get a fucking job. So you better believe I did anything that had to be done to make sure that Virtika, succeeded.
Yeah. And if it didn't succeed, obviously you just said that, your plan was to go get a straight job. Do you think that you would have found your way back to starting your own company, or
For
do
sure.
you think you had
Oh
to?
yeah. I mean, once you have that lifestyle, and that freedom, it's very hard to go back. I would have not done well in a corporate environment. It would have been it would have been a tough pill to swallow. If I had to show up to an office and go work in a cubicle and have a boss, like, that would have been really fucking devastating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think once you have a taste of it, that it's even once you have a taste of freedom, it's even harder to give into it. Maybe if you went straight from high school to doing that,
Right.
it could have
Totally.
been easier. But
100%. Yeah. No, it would have been really shitty. And at some point, I remember realizing, in the beginning of the company, I kind of thought, well, if this doesn't work out, like, I'm fucked. I have nothing else to fall back on. I'm gonna have to, like, go get a job or do something. And that would have been, at that point I'd become a pilot, so maybe I could have, like, gone into, flying commercially, which would have been fine, but, like, the money wouldn't have been great, and, like, wouldn't have been what I wanted to do as a career. So I had maybe some options, but I remember the moment when I really realized that even if Virtika somehow went under, that because of the connections that I had made in the, many years of having a business, and just all the people that I've met, I knew enough people where people knew who I was. They knew what I was capable of. They knew that I was a smart guy, that I was hardworking. And I think I could have found myself in some other kind of entrepreneurial position where maybe I wouldn't have owned the company, but I would have been working kind of on my own for a company, or, I would have been able to do something that wasn't just like a standard job. And I remember when I sort of had that realization that I would never have to have a normal job again, and I would never have to go back to school, because what I had, learned, and the connections that I had made, and what I had done in having my own company was so much better and more significant than finishing college, that I realized that I would never have to go back to college, and I would never have to have a real job again. And that was like one of the best moments of my life, where I was like, okay, so here, made it. I've set myself up well enough for, like, even if somehow Vertigo were to go under, which I don't think that would happen. Even if it did, I would have enough other opportunities to live a life with basically the same lifestyle that I have now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people, dream about being able to say that and building their own safety net and, building kind of their own life and their own destiny. Do you think that everyone's built for it, or does it take someone with a certain stomach to be able to go through that
Oh,
uncertainty and have it
fuck
themselves?
no, dude. People, they think, oh yeah, wouldn't that be nice to, like, not have a boss and start your own company, and they see me on social media traveling around the world, and partying and flying airplanes and hanging out with all these girls and doing whatever the fuck I want. There is no way that 90% of these people would be able to stomach the risk and stress that goes into starting and running and growing your own business. They just, it's not like, running a little mom and pop coffee shop. You're managing, an international brand and the image of that brand. And, it's just, there's major money at play, and you've got employees, and you've got liability, and you're getting sued, and there's just like stuff going on. It's not just like this carefree thing. And at this point, I have fine tuned it into a very, very efficient, well oiled machine that is very, for the most part, hands off and stress free. At any moment, shit can go haywire, right? Like, I could lose an entire shipment. My fucking container could fall off a ship on the way from China. And like, that would derail, my company to at least some extent. It wouldn't put it under, but it would be like a shitty thing. There's always bad stuff that can happen, but I think I've got it now to the point where it's very manageable and stable, and self-sufficient and easy. But that takes a long time to get it there. And to get it there, I don't think most people have the work ethic and the ability to stomach that amount of risk, in the interim, to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it helped that you started when you're young? You're 23, you don't really have any responsibilities, or people are relying on you. Was that a big element of it?
So I think the main thing is I didn't have anything to lose. Most times when people start a company, they have to take on debt. They have to take out, loans. They have to have investors. They have to. There's real risk involved. For me, there was no risk involved because I didn't have anything. My risk was $2,000, and that $2,000, even at the time when that was my only money, I knew in the scheme of life that was not a lot of money. And so my only risk was my image, was my reputation. Because if I failed publicly, if the company didn't really succeed, then people in the industry would be like, oh yeah, remember when like David Lesh tried to start that outerwear brand? It was, so my only risk was really my reputation. And even that, it would have been manageable. There's other pro skiers who have tried to start brands and they haven't really like become a thing. So I didn't have anything to lose. I don't think the age didn't really matter that much. I mean, if right now I didn't have anything to lose, I would, and I've started multiple other companies, since then. And these companies, nothing really bad would have happened if they didn't work out. So that was the main thing. Is I think it's just, I didn't have anything to lose.
Yeah. Yeah. And just calling back again to the beginning, like a lot of people have a hard time believing this lifestyle is just supported off of like the business that you built. So the money that you made from it, obviously some of it goes into lifestyle, but where have you reinvested that money? Has it all gone back into Virtika, or did you, traditional investments, new businesses, like where are you putting all the profit?
I mean, most of it's been from Virtika. The money that I've made from Virtika, I think, in the beginning I was not smart with, but since then I think I've learned a lot, and I've gotten a lot smarter with my investments. In 2015, I started a hoverboard brand. called Nitwit that did, pretty well for about a year until people didn't want the hoverboards anymore. So I made a lot of money, with Nitwit in probably 9 months. That was a good money making thing. At some point, I started an order fulfillment company. So we do order fulfillment for some local brands here. I've got the warehouse. I already got the employees. I've got pallet racks and forklift, and I'm already set up for it. So that's a little bit of extra income. Buying this building, and I rent out a couple spaces, vacant spaces in this building. That was a good money making investment. I've got some other properties that I've invested in. I've got 2 hangars, a short-term rental in Breckenridge, and I'm kind of in the process of buying more real estate. I invested in crypto when that was a thing. I just, if I think I can make a buck, I generally will try to. I've bought and sold some snowmobiles. I am in the process. I patented a dog toy. I'm starting a brand around a dog toy, a frisbee thrower. Just random shit. I anywhere where I can kind of make a buck, I try to.
Yeah. And I mean, this was one of the reasons I wanted you to come on, is because a lot of the articles, I do a ton of research before these, and a lot of the articles I read, you'll set the record straight, and then people in the comments will still be like, "Oh yeah, he's lying. His parents definitely tossed it." It's like it just doesn't make, like, no matter how many times you say it, people are still like, "Oh yeah, no, his parents definitely gave him some money here and there, and they definitely funded this." So that's why I wanted to see the other business side of you.
I've realized that it doesn't matter what you say or do. There's always going to be all kinds of people who just fucking hate you for your success, for your lifestyle, for values that differ from theirs, from anything. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just, they're mostly the people that I think hate me are living an unhappy life. They're stuck somewhere doing something that they're not happy with, and I think that it irks them to see somebody else out there who is maybe not living the most traditional of lives, and does go against the grain a little bit, but is actually truly happy and self-made, and they don't want to believe that is possible. They want to think in their head, well, I'm in this situation because I have to be, and the only reason that he's in maybe a better situation is because it was gifted to him. So that somehow makes them feel better about their choices or their life that they've created for themselves. And people are welcome to say and do whatever the fuck they want. I'm out here living the greatest life that I can live. So I don't really.
Yeah. So I think it's important to talk about the Friday videos, because shit, I had the word in my head for it, but kind of like the outlandish marketing, the shock marketing, however you want to phrase it. That like did from my perspective, growing up, like that's when I noticed Virtika, and I think that people have taken those Friday videos and how you market and attributed that to every single dramatic thing that happens in your life. So let's go over the Friday videos first before we get into everything else that isn't marketing.
So yeah, the Friday videos were an interesting thing. In the beginning, I really cared what people thought about me and the company, and I was very very concerned with preserving an image of myself and the company. And once I saw the company kind of succeed and gain some momentum, I became a little bit less concerned about, what some individual person may say on the internet, because the company was succeeding. It was gaining momentum on its own, and I didn't really fully appreciate what an effect last Friday and all the Friday videos were going to have. I just kind of, we were shooting guns and snowmobiling and skydiving and flying airplanes, and that was all stuff that we were actually doing. And I thought, like, wouldn't it be cool to document all the stuff that we're already doing, but put it together in almost like a story format that maybe takes place in like one day, so that you're doing all this stuff. Normally, obviously, we're not doing all this stuff in one day, but what if we could, create this little storyline where we're doing all this cool shit in one day? Wouldn't that be, cool? Because all these ski movies that have ever been made, they're so one dimensional. It's like it's just skiing to music. There's no like plot. There's nothing interesting that happens. There's no other cool shit going on. It's like just skiing to music. And I'm like, well, we're doing all this other cool stuff. Like, let's combine it all into a video and like put it out there. So when we put it out there and it just, like broke the internet, I didn't really, yeah, I didn't anticipate that. And for a second, we were receiving, death threats and hate mail from around the world. I got fired from my coaching. We all got fired from our coaching jobs. We got kicked out of CU campus. We were really, it was a lot of stuff happened in a very short amount of time. I had the cops pulling me over, 5 times in 5 days in Breckenridge and questioning me. And I mean, it was like really an extreme reaction to this video that we put out. And for a little bit, people on the internet were like, you've ruined your company, and yeah, good job, moron. Like, that's the end of Virtika, and like, good riddance, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't know, maybe they're right. Like, I don't, what the fuck do I know? Like, maybe this is the end of my company. So for a while I was concerned. And when I saw the company, not go under, and there were a lot of people who really responded to it very positively. And who really loved the video, and who kind of, saw that we weren't taking ourselves seriously. Some people thought that we were like totally serious about it. But some people were able to kind of see the, the humor in it and whatever. And so I just, at some point, I remember I was faced with a choice, and I could have taken the video down and sort of like apologized, or I could own it and just really go 10 times harder in the future. And so that's what I did. I created the apology video, which was just kind of like a fuck you to the world. And then I created, this Friday and next Friday, and, all the other videos that we've made. And each one we've just tried to kind of like, go harder and show people that, we really don't give a fuck.
Yeah. So, I mean, so for anyone that is not familiar with the video, it's basically just a video of you and your guys doing crazy shit, shooting guns, I think chasing a moose at one point, drifting your cars, blah, blah, blah. And, as you said, everyone had a huge reaction to it, and complete overreaction. But I think that set the stage for now, like when something crazy happens to you and you start filming it, they think, oh, here he goes making another one of these videos. Like when you crash your plane, for example, everyone's saying, oh, this is just a continuation of what he was doing with those videos.
Yeah, what I've realized is that, because of the internet now, everything that you do, it kind of creates this narrative, it creates this timeline. And so anytime you do anything, they'll do an internet search on you, and they'll go back however long they can find stuff on you on the internet, and they'll kind of create this narrative. And whether or not this narrative is accurate or even exists at all, is neither here nor there. These news sources, they don't give a fuck. They just want, the next clickbait driven news piece. So it sort of creates this narrative, and then they, work off of that. And then the headlines say, public scofflaw David Lesh, or, it just sort of sets in motion this image that you maybe never really intended for it to be the case. But once it was the case, I was trying to do my best to capitalize on it.
Yeah. I mean, so do you want to give people the story of you? I mean, you survived a plane crash, is just the only way to put it. Like, so do you want to give a breakdown of what happened with that, and kind of the backlash afterwards of the people, thinking that it was intentional?
Yeah. So part of it was like a year before, coincidentally enough, we did an April Fool's Day press release on newschoolers.com that said that I had crashed my airplane smuggling drugs in Mexico, and I was being held by a Mexican drug cartel, and we had this terrible photo that went along with it that somehow people bought into. Anyway, so some people actually thought that I had crashed my plane with that, and then after a while they realized it was, April Fool's Day, and they figured out maybe it wasn't real. But some people still thought it was real. After the fact, they'd search it and see it. And so that then a year later, I bought, a new airplane, and it had an engine failure over the coast of California, and I put it into the ocean, was fine, got rescued by the Coast Guard. And all the media sources, all the news stations around the world picked it up. And the first round of news stories was, oh my God, this pilot survives plane crash, yada yada yada. But then a day later, they started doing research, and they're like, oh well, he faked this plane crash in Mexico, and maybe this is also staged, and look at all these crazy videos that he made for publicity, and he owns his clothing company, and oh, he must be doing this to promote his clothing company. And so this this whole thing became a thing. So then I had a whole second round of interviews with all these news stations around the world for that. So I did all those interviews, and I try to dispel any myth of me actually doing this on purpose, which would have been fucking insane. And what really is interesting now is however many years later, that fucking Trevor Jacobs guy actually crashed his fucking airplane on purpose as a publicity stunt. And I think, he's kind of in like the snowboard world. And I have to believe that whether or not he thought I did it on purpose or not, I have to believe that he saw the amount of media attention that I got from that. And I have to believe that I'm some of the reason that he decided to, buy that shitty little airplane and fucking crash it on purpose in the desert.
Yeah. I mean, did that rehash any of the rumors again? Like, were people reaching back out to you? Hey, this guy just did this, and you did this hypothetically years
back
ago.
out, but when he crashed his plane and it was all over the news, a lot of the news articles did reference my plane crash in there because there was obviously a lot of parallels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what a lot of people got hung up on with your plane crash was that you pulled out your phone and started recording.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, do you want to defend that for yourself? Because I personally have no issue with someone recording crazy shit happening around them and being level-headed enough to record. But
I think I was so surprised that people were surprised by that. It's like everywhere you go, every motherfucker is pulling out their iPhone to record everything. Like you go on your Instagram feed, it's just crazy ass videos that everything is now being recorded. People have dash cams, everyone's got an iPhone, everything's live streaming, and everything is recorded now. So I didn't really understand I'm floating around the fucking ocean with nothing to do until I get rescued, and you're surprised. I'm trying to hold my phone out of the water so it doesn't sink in the goddamn Pacific Ocean, and you're surprised that I took my phone and had the wherewithal to record it. What the fuck else am I going to do? I'm sitting around for 45 minutes freezing my ass off, keeping my phone out of the water. The thing might as well be recording. I didn't I can't. I think mostly the people who were surprised by that were an older generation that just is not used to having a camera on them all the time and pulling out and recording stuff. I don't think the younger generation, this new generation, would have been shocked that I had my phone on me and was recording,
Yeah. Well, some people they thought the fact that you weren't freaking out about it was verifiable evidence that you were in on you planned it because you weren't completely useless in an emergency situation.
Yeah, it's funny, and that plane crash was it was a thing. It definitely was a gnarly thing to go through, but I'm an extreme athlete. I've almost killed myself however many times. I mean, I've done crazy gnarly shit on purpose, and this was it was to me less insane than all the other shit. I mean, I bought a car to fucking flip it on purpose. We flipped it with no roll cage and no helmets on, and I jumped a car 80 feet over a creek, and I jumped the thing 120 feet in New Zealand and bent the whole frame in half, and my buddy broke his back dropping the car off of a cliff. And I taught myself to speed fly off of a mountain and got towed into the ground with a snowmobile from 60 feet up, and all this crazy ass shit. And so being in the ocean floating around for 45 minutes was I wasn't freaking out to the extent that I couldn't use my phone. I'm a pilot. You learn to handle emergency situations being calm, or you die. That's the only other option.
Yeah, definitely. So when I saw that and people were whatever, man, comments people are saying stupid shit in the comments all the time, especially for a figure that they can't relate to and don't understand at all.
Right, these people are not me. They're not out there doing crazy shit. They're sitting in their house, fucking watching television. They're not used to handling crazy emergency situations and having to stay calm doing it. Like the people have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah, I mean, so with the recent trouble you've been in, has there been more of the speculation like, oh, everything's for marketing, or like, oh, he has a complete reckless disregard for where this narrative has been attached to you. So like, what's been going on recently?
I mean, recently, this whole deal with basically, I have to be kind of careful about what I say about this because I'm currently appealing this whole nonsense. But the gist of it is, over a course of 2 years, I was charged with a total of 12 federal petty offenses. During COVID, during Black Lives Matter, people were at their houses really tuned up and bored out of their fucking mind. The news stations didn't have anything to report on, and I kind of became this source of this person of interest. And so basically, the gist of it is I was charged with 12 crimes with no evidence at all besides my Instagram posts. They dropped 10 out of these 12 charges because they were ridiculous with absolutely no proof. And somewhere along, in the process of all this, I really started to try to push back a little bit and to try to fuck with people and to try to point out the hypocrisy of the situation, but also just the insanity of the government charging somebody with crimes solely based on an Instagram post, which is just like the most insane, unconstitutional thing that I have, personally witnessed. And I think it pokes big holes in our legal system and exposes some real issues. And so that's why I've kind of been determined to see this through to the end. And we're currently, appealing it. And it's been an interesting process. It's been now 3 years in the making. And at this point, I don't really have anything to lose. I'm not going to jail. There's nothing bad that's going to happen to me. So at this point, it's just kind of something interesting for me to do and to kind of fight back a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it like kind of harkens back when you released Friday, and all it's just a video. At the end of the day, it was just a video. You didn't hurt anybody in Friday. I mean, potentially besides yourselves, but you get fired from your job and you get let go as a coach, and now mob rule on the internet is making you get prosecuted by the government. So it's just like
it's very similar. In last Friday we were shooting guns out of the car, and they thought that we were like in neighborhoods, like fucking drive-by shooting style, like letting off rounds into these houses. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, no, dude. Like, did you ever get a complaint of like people shooting guns in Breckenridge, or like did anyone have a bullet come through their window? Like, we weren't just like driving around shooting guns into houses. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it was the same kind of a thing where they were, they didn't charge me with anything because they didn't have any evidence, obviously, but they were trying to charge me with crimes. They were, pulling me over and they were questioning me and the whole deal. They were questioning my friends, and they were doing everything they could do to try to trump up some charges. But it was the same kind of deal where they were really looking to prosecute somebody solely based on something they posted to the internet with no other evidence at all and no complaints, nothing. It's just like the same thing with all these Instagram pictures that I posted. There was obviously no witnesses. There was no complaints. There was no property damage. There was nothing that was done to anyone or anything besides my picture that I posted to the internet. And that's just a crazy fucking slippery slope when the government starts going after people for pictures they post to the internet.
Or I mean, it's going to get even worse with deep fakes. You superimpose somebody's face onto them committing a crime, and then there's a video on the internet of you doing this. It must be real. Yeah,
it's insane. The whole thing is insane.
Yeah,
with how easy image manipulation is now, with how easy Photoshop is, and the ability to edit video and all this stuff. It's like you can't just charge people with crimes from what they post to the internet. Like, you have to. There should be something that happened in the real world. Somebody should say, hey, this person fucking did this, or there should be some evidence before you just go charging people with crimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, I gotta ask, like, why troll people with a photo of you on the log at Hanging Lake and like shitting into a maroon? Like what's what do you gain from it?
Um,
With all, especially with all this
I
trouble that's come from it.
what do I gain from it? One, the whole thing definitely blew up into more of a thing than I anticipated it would. I did want to, ruffle some feathers and push some people's buttons because I discovered that there's this whole kind of sect of people, especially in Colorado, and I'd call them like eco warriors, where they're just very hypocritical Karens who freak out because they're told to freak out, and they don't actually use 1 ounce of brain power to actually think about, what they're doing, or if this actually is something that is wrong or bad for the environment. They just kind of do what they're told. And these are the people that I really want to fuck with the most. And so those all, the picture of me shitting in the lake and standing on the log at Hanging Lake and all this was just a good way to fuck with these people that I really despise, and in the process just kind of do something interesting, like just, I don't know, like it was the middle of like COVID, nothing was going on, like travel wasn't really a thing. I just, it just, my employee and I kind of cooked up this whole scheme, during that time. We just kind of thought it was just a funny way to fuck with people and get some free publicity and just do something interesting, basically. And it definitely turned into more of a thing than we thought it would. But it was an interesting, wild ride. I don't know. And it's not done yet. I mean, there's still, we'll see what happens, with the appeal. But I don't know. It was just kind of something to do.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, you definitely got more than you bargained for, but I think that making content to ruffle feathers, like I don't think that's, you end up with a felony for that, or I don't even know if that was on the table, but still.
No, it's not a felony. They're
Yeah.
federal charges, but they're petty offenses. It's like if you didn't pick up your dog shit at a national park or something. It's just a petty offense.
Mhm.
I think a lot of it came from my friend Dan Bilzerian, who he really ruffles people's feathers, and he's made a very successful living for himself being this person who's very controversial. And I think that he's done a very good job at poking people and pushing buttons and being someone of interest that people talk about, and love him or hate him, they talk about him and they know who he is. And he's been able to really monetize that and capitalize on the fame that he's created for himself. And so I realized in my years of friendship, I think with him, that any press is good press. And as long as you're not out there, kidnapping children and murdering baby seals, like it will be okay. As long as you're not actually doing horrible things out in the world. What is he doing? He's fucking a bunch of chicks and like traveling around and, living his life. What am I doing? I'm posting pictures of me shitting in a fucking lake or standing on a log. Like I'm not, it's nothing. So if you're able to get a reaction from people out of such, insignificant things, then it's a good way to, to promote yourself or your brand, or just kind of get some interest going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, environmentalists like to attack, like, so some people say, oh, it's just content, whatever. And, I definitely subscribe to that to some degree. But then some people say that you're like, actually like, you hate the environment, you don't care at all. And, like, for example, with the snowmobile off a jump at Vail, they're like, oh, I don't know the exact lines, and I'm sure they've been directed towards you, so I think you know them better. But they were somehow arguing that you riding a snowmobile at a place where there's cats driving around all the time, like somehow you're doing something that's worse than the typical operations of a ski resort.
The whole thing is so fucking ridiculous and so funny. And what's crazy about it is that when the news tells people to be upset, they get upset. They don't think, oh, okay, is this actually something bad? They just do exactly what they're told. And that was part of what was so concerning during COVID is people just did as they were told. They were told to stay in their house. They were told to wear a mask. They were told to get the vaccine. They were told to do all this stuff, and they just fucking did it. And I just thought that Americans were a little bit more free thinking than that. And I think COVID exposed just how, robotic and manipulated everyone is in this country. And I was just another kind of example of them being able to just easily be manipulated by the news. What's been really interesting is just recently, Keystone actually specifically, they got permission from the Forest Service to put in another lift. They're going to plow down some more forest and put it in a lift. Well, in the process of doing this, they bulldozed an entire road that was not authorized, and they got caught doing it. And so now this was in the news. I post a picture to the internet harming no one. I get charged with 12 federal petty offenses. Keystone, the same place where I supposedly jumped a snowmobile, plows a fucking road in with a bulldozer, unauthorized. There's no charges filed. Nobody has to go to court. They're like, oh, you have to like slow down your lift installation for a while. Like, it's like so insane. At the exact same place where I supposedly, jumped a snowmobile. It's just like the hypocrisy is just, an irony is fucking insane.
Yeah. I mean, like people will rightly claim like, okay, yeah, you're an asshole sometimes, but they get way more upset with you for, just being obnoxious than they would do for something that's like legitimately bad for the environment and bad for the ecosystem.
I mean, look, everything we do is bad for the environment, right? Like,
yeah,
driving your car, flying on an airplane, fucking driving, up to go skiing. They plowed down all this forest and built lodges and lifts. And I mean, obviously it's all bad for the environment, right? So you have to kind of pick and choose your battles. And choosing your battle to be some guy who, may or may not have jumped a snowmobile, like at a terrain park jump at a mountain that was closed with, it's just like the whole thing is like just so fucking absurd. And the fact that it didn't even happen is like makes it even more absurd. It's just I have a hard time wrapping my brain around people's thought process, but
yeah. I mean, and you're breaking the heart of it in Colorado. I think Colorado is probably the center of that discussion in America about environmentalism, and it's just it's got to be interesting.
Yeah, the whole Hanging Lake thing was interesting too because at the end of the day, the picture I posted was me just standing on a log. I wasn't even in the water. I was standing on a log, right? The bottom of that trailhead is the most expensive stretch of highway that has ever been built in America, going through Glenwood Canyon. They fucking blasted that entire canyon. There is a 4 to 6 lane, two level divided highway that goes through that entire canyon. They blasted in parking lots and bike trails and a railroad that goes through there and all this stuff. They just completely decimated the entire thing. There's mining operations everywhere with mining lakes at the bottom that are just disgusting and all this shit. But like this one dude standing on a fucking log is somehow like the public economic or environmental scofflaw of Colorado. It's just like so insane.
Yeah. And I already know that some people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're not." That they're gonna be upset that saying, "Oh, well, what if those photos aren't photoshopped?" But
that's the funny thing.
Yeah, like
if the photos weren't photoshopped, who the fuck cares? I mean, some guy sitting on a log, like who in the fuck cares? It's so mind-boggling. And then 2 months after I was there, a forest fire comes through and completely destroys the area. And then a mudslide comes through and completely destroys the area. And it's like, you're concerned about me sitting on a fucking log? I mean, it's just like, it's so insignificant.
Yeah. Damn. Well, you got your hands full with that battle going on right now. So
right now it's chilled out. I mean, it hasn't really been a thing for, a year or two, but now people forget quickly.
Yeah. So what's coming up next for you? I mean, any innovations with Virtika? You mentioned that you got this dog toy coming up. Well, let's do the what you got planned for the future. Then we'll do some viewer questions.
I'm doing a patented this dog toy. Producing those right now. I already made the frisbees for them. I'm trying to buy some more real estate right now. refinancing my current properties. I've got some new women's stuff coming out for Virtika. We've got, I don't know, just some new products, more colorways. Not too much different. We're just slowly kind of expanding the brand and the line.
All right. Let's do some viewer questions, and then we can get you out of here. So, first viewer question, it's the recurring one. What is your hot take in skiing?
I don't know if I have any controversial opinions about skiing. For a long time, I was like not into the no pole thing. I just, thought that aesthetically skiers should have poles. But I know now there's kind of a new creative side of skiing where kids who don't use poles are doing actually stuff with their hands. They're doing hand plants and they're doing different kinds of grabs that maybe you couldn't do if you had poles. So I guess I'm open to the no pole thing now, but honestly, I don't really have too many controversial opinions about skiing because I really don't closely follow skiing anymore. I couldn't tell you 10 new pro skiers from the past couple of years. I have no idea. I'm totally tuned out of that whole world. It's just not my main focus anymore. I guess if I did have one opinion of skiing is that it's definitely gone in a spin to win direction, which I think is not great for the sport. The sport, I think, really, the name style is in the sport, right? Freestyle skiing. I think style has to remain a big part of the sport. And I think like people like Henrik Arlo are, very key in pushing that style aspect of the sport. And I'd like to see more people that are more focused on style and less focused on spin to win.
Yeah, there you have it. All right, Emmett Davis. He's the founder of Vishnu Skis. I don't know how close you follow small businesses in skiing. Did you ever get investigated by the FAA for crashing your plane for clout? So, I mean, you could see what he believes for that scenario. But did you ever get investigated by the FAA?
No, the FAA never had any concerns of it being real or fake. Neither did the NTSB. The NTSB did an investigation, and I sent them over all the footage and stuff that I had from that flight. And I actually had footage of inside the airplane. The chick that I was with had a video of the whole panel like seconds before the motor quit. And so they looked at everything and, they said it was an engine failure.
Mm-hmm.
So no, there was never any question by the NTSB or the FAA that it was, staged or not.
Yeah. And that plane is just sitting at the bottom of the ocean floor now?
Yep. It's now a fish habitat.
Shit. All right. Scards, what's your best Be Divine story?
I guess, my most memorable time with B was one of the summers that we were living in New Zealand for their winter. And we bought this, it was like a 1988 Subaru Legacy. And we were skiing Snow Park. That was when Snow Park was still a thing. And every day we were driving to Snow Park and there was this creek that was right next to the road as you were driving up the road to Snow Park. And it was set up to be like a perfect gap jump for a car. And we eyed it up for like a year before that. And we finally were like, we just have to fucking do this thing. And so we set up to do it, and we kind of scoped it out, and we cleared the in-run, and we put our ski helmets on, and we kind of calculated how much speed we thought we'd need to clear the creek. And, it was about maybe, 60 feet that we had to travel. And the most sketchy part of it was the outrun. We had to kind of narrowly gap this fence and this signpost. It was really, there was no margin for error, and we were going fast. We had to go about 70 miles an hour to hit this thing. And it was a right drive car. The steering wheel's on the right-hand side. And while we were setting this up, a whole crowd of people had formed. And it was determined that I was going to drive. And for some reason, B sitting next to me was not going to do anything but, just be risky to himself. But he decided that he wanted to just go along for the ride. And, B looks like he's a homeless person. He's got, dreads. He doesn't shower for months at a time. He smells fucking disgusting. And so, B kind of climbs into the car, and it just kind of looks like this homeless dude sitting next to me. And we had a crowd that had gathered, and we fucking, just sent it, and we did it somehow perfectly. We put like 800 pounds of rocks in the trunk, so that the nose wouldn't kind of, dive down as we went off the jump. And we stomped it, and we spent the whole rest of that summer just like blasting through streams and off-roading this car and jumping the thing, 100 feet. And it was just a really, really fun summer. So I guess my Be Divine story would be that summer in New Zealand when we were just, having a blast in Wanaka, just traveling around. And, there were a couple of fights that broke out, and we were skiing, and I got my pilot's license down there, and we were renting airplanes, and we buzzed, Snow Park underneath the lift and flying all around, New Zealand, the South Island. And it was just a fun summer of making videos and skiing and just jumping the shit out of this car.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, he's definitely a recurring character in your videos. And how do you guys even know each other in the first place?
Oh God, I've known B since he was like 14 years old. I met him in Whistler. I was 16, and I went to Whistler for the summer. I drove like 36 hours straight from Wisconsin, and spent the summer in Whistler. And B was, I think, 14, and just hanging out and skiing COC. I was skiing COC in High North, and he was just like this grungy little fucking kid who was just like running around, being a hooligan and skiing. And we kind of just became friends through that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I like the videos of you like chopping off his dreads and just generally fucking with him.
Yeah, he's a character for sure. I mean, people just mistake him as like a homeless guy everywhere he goes, and he actually makes good money. He's a contractor. He builds houses, and he's got a good setup there in Tahoe. But he like looks like a homeless person for sure.
Yeah. All right. Blonde Gabe. At this point, are you just trying to get a bag off of skiing, or do you actually care about the future of the sport?
Get a bag off of skiing, that means like make money off of
Yeah.
skiing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I care about the sport. I definitely care about my life and happiness more than I care about skiing as a sport. But no, I absolutely care about skiing. I still ski a lot, and I want to continue to push myself in my skiing. And I care about the sport, but definitely not as much as I used to. I'm not as, tuned into it as I used to be.
Yeah. Do you think that it's worth pursuing a career as a professional skier? Like somebody that was like kind of your level of skiing, or maybe slightly, somewhere where you're good but you're not the best in the field. Like, is it worth pursuing it as a career?
Even if you're the best in the field, I would not pursue it for financial reasons. I mean, you're risking your life. You're going to destroy your fucking body, which you don't care about when you're 20, but when you're 60 and you've blown apart your knees and broken your back or your neck, or like you're gonna feel it when you're older for sure. So I would caution anyone from pursuing it unless they just really fucking love it and they want to do that no matter what. The only reason to pursue skiing would be is if even if it wasn't a profession, you would still be out there doing all the same shit. But to pursue it for financial reasons would not be smart.
There you have it. All right, Ankilla, what's your favorite ski beef you've ever had? So what's the best rivalry you've had with someone in skiing?
I mean, I guess really the only thing that comes to mind is I remember as a kid really growing up with Tanner Hall kind of introducing like the gorilla skis, the thug style of skiing. And I remember just being like so jealous of Tanner Hall and just like hating him so much because he was this like wannabe thug, like gangster. And I really just fucking hated the guy for absolutely no reason. And later on, him and I became friends, and it was an interesting process to kind of actually meet him, in real life and see what he's actually like. And it gave me a lot more insight into, why he is the way that he is. And but for a while, I really vehemently hated Tanner Hall for absolutely no reason.
That I did not expect that answer at all. That is such a random person to to bring up, but I love that. Yeah, that's a good answer. All right, the Caruso. What is your relationship like with Level One Productions and Josh Berman?
Oh God. Um, um, you know, it's such a loaded question. Um, a lot of people in the industry are not big fans of Josh Berman, for I think a lot of good reasons. I have had my own personal experiences with him that, were both good and bad. I don't think that he's a bad guy. I have nothing against the guy, honestly. At this point, I don't hold on to that kind of beef. Um, you know, I'm very much glad that I am not him, and I can see why people have had negative experiences with him. But I myself don't have anything against the guy, and I wish him nothing but the best.
We could leave it at that, unless you want to get into specifics about why people might dislike him.
I mean, he I think can be described as a ruthless businessman who has sacrificed personal and business relationships for the sake of making money. And, he's definitely rubbed some people the wrong way. That being said, I'm sure people say the same thing about me. So, it's whatever. You got to take everything with a grain of salt, and you just have to kind of go based on your personal experiences with someone, and people who have an opinion of somebody that they haven't met or know nothing about or know very little about. It just doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I think that might have been a callback. I think I was listening to a different interview where you mentioned that I think maybe you filmed with them for one movie and it didn't go so great. I think that's maybe the origin of that question.
Yeah, I mean, he was sort of known for um, exploiting a lot of young skiers who were just coming up, and just kind of milking their sponsors or giving them sponsors, milking their sponsors for whatever money that he could, and then just kind of using people and then disposing of them. That I think was most skiers' complaint with him, but there's also other people in the industry who, they had their own business dealings with him that I think didn't go very well.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, last question, Grant Harris. What is your advice for young entrepreneurs?
My, I guess, advice would be to, if you see a hole in a market, if you see a product or service that is not being met or being met well, to plug that hole and be prepared to work harder than you ever worked in your life to make that work. And if that does not work, to try something else. The people who are entrepreneurs who are successful generally don't just start Facebook and then that's the end of it. They've had a series of things that have not worked, and things that have not panned out, and they've learned from those things. And it's really the process in learning that then eventually will lead you to some level of success. And the successful entrepreneurs out there are just very prepared to take risks, work hard, and never give up no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's some solid advice. A lot of the other guys we've talked to that, their business has been going on over a decade. It's find a hole in the market and then plug it and be the solution to a problem, basically. Don't be another solution that already exists.
Yeah, for sure. And even once you are that solution, just be prepared to endure some shit.
Yeah. Cool. David, thanks so much for your time, man. I appreciate it. I know that you're all over the place. Happy to catch you before you go to Italy. And yeah, I mean, you want to plug anything before I let you go? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, David Lesh, Lesh. You can find Virtika on Instagram, Virtika, or Virtika.com. And yeah, buy some gear. You'll love it.